Should turn our mics on. It is 7:01 by my watch. We will go ahead and call to order our January 3rd, 2023 City Council meeting. Let's go ahead and take roll.
Councilman Becker.
Here.
Councilman Hartwick. Here. Councilman Johnson.
Here.
Councilman Schultz.
Here.
President Scheer.
Here. Agenda item 3 will be public hearing. This evening we have none. Agenda item 4 will be public comment. Just as a reminder, the city council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon. That would be name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on any public comments unless the item is also elsewhere on the agenda. And that would be the city council will receive comments from city residents and city property owners. We have quite a list for in person, so we will start there and then move over to Zoom. Kyle Scheffler, if you'd like to come on up, state your name, your residence, and why you are speaking.
Kyle Scheffler on behalf of Mr. Bruce Tap House at 201 North Main Street, Suite 220. I reside at 104 Lumber Street, apartment number 2.
Thank you. And would you like to mention anything as to why you signed up for public comment? Anything the council should take?
Just in regards to our liquor license for Mr. Bruce Tap House.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next will be Greg Day.
I'm Greg Day. I'm actually one of the owners of the Mr. Bruce Tap House. As some of you are aware of. Do I get a chance to say anything I want right now, or?
Yep, we cannot respond to questions though.
So I just, some key points about the last meeting is, we employ 15 to 20 employees right now. The liquor license will enable us to hire about another 3 to 4. Being able to have a full menu with a full bar menu is absolutely crucial to our business, because we lose a lot of guests because all we serve right now is beer and wine for the last 5.5, 6 years. We've been waiting for the last 5.5 years to get this license that it finally came available. And it is absolutely essential to the successfulness of our business to continue to grow forward. We stuck through COVID. My brother and I bought out the last franchisees who are failing miserably. And this liquor license would be, I'm a little nervous, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I think that it just sucks that there's only one license, and I get that. But I feel bad whoever gets it, someone's not gonna be happy. I guess that's kind of what I wanted to say. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next would be Mark Leach.
Council President, I am the COO for Mr. Bruce Tap House, but home for me is Nashville, Tennessee. So I want to make sure that I don't want to break any rules or make sure there's a level of integrity here. So I am a vested, partial owner through being with the brand for a significant period of time. But I just wanted to clarify that I put down the restaurant here. And so I think Greg did a great job in kind of explaining a little bit where we are. We're basically a full service restaurant without a full service liquor license. We have been candidating for about 5.5 years. Poor Michelle, we come to her every year and she goes, I'll let you know when we get to the proper population where we can issue one. And matter of fact, Kyle said, he goes, I don't know if we should go in anymore, Mark. I think Michelle's just going to let us know, which she's been great in keeping us posted. But we just feel it's a great opportunity for us to continue the brand. As Greg shared, we took it over from a franchisee that defaulted. So we basically bought a failing business, and through good leadership, Greg and Kyle, we've actually been able to turn the restaurant around, and we've given back to the community, and we invested back in Fort Atkinson, and really feel it's a great opportunity for us, a great a a lot of people come in and they enjoy craft beer and a burger, but a lot of people do enjoy a spirit. I mean, when you think of the old fashioned, you think of Wisconsin, right? So that would be a great enhancement, and it would help us with not so much maybe getting the veto vote when people come in. If, hey, I don't want a beer, I don't want a wine, I'm just looking for a cocktail. So we appreciate the process that we've been through and appreciate all the council members. I'm sure you'd want to do something different on a rainy night, 7 o'clock at night. But again, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next will be Adele.
Hi, I own the Verla store also. I'm also partner in the building with Mike. We like to see Mr. Talhouse get the license. Been working very hard. We like to grow the building. We don't want to lose any tenants in the building. I think it's really important for the Tap House to get the license. Mike and I, we think if we don't get the license, the business, I don't think will survive as long as it has been before. So but basically, that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Mike Hurl.
I'm Mike Hurl. I'm majority owner and managing partner for the Creamery Building Complex. Don't want to reiterate too much what everyone has said here, but Adele and I have owned the building now for about 7 years. And in the 7 years that we've owned the building, it was virtually empty when we bought it. Just prior to COVID, we were 95% full. We brought a lot of life down to the downtown area by having over 225 people employed inside the building. Like a whole lot of other dreams, COVID killed a lot. We lost our largest tenant in the building, being the S&P 500. We are downsizing another tenant as we speak right now, just so that they can survive inside the building. We've had to cut deals on rent with all of our retail customers. Right now, we're on a wing and a prayer with our rents and what have you. We've been working with Mr. Bruce for quite a while now, cutting them breaks, trying to make sure that they stay above water. There's only so much we can do as property owners for the folks before we start taking a hit and we have to answer to the bank. Mr. Bruce can really use this. As they stated, they've been trying to get something for over 5 years now, patiently waiting. It would add a lot to the downtown. Adele does own Creamery 201 events. Just over the weekend, they had well over 300 people there for a wedding. And one of the things that people are constantly saying is if they could break away from the wedding crowd and go sit somewhere and have a cocktail, and don't take offense, Adele, but rubber chicken dinners and things like that, they would really welcome it in the Mr. Bruce. So I ask that you seriously consider awarding Mr. Bruce this liquor license. Thank you.
And then Aaron and Mitch Patterson.
Hello again, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak before the council to advocate for our business Patty Shack to be the recipient of the Class B license. We want to begin by reiterating the application guidelines. Per license materials and applications, the goal of the license committee and city council in choosing the recipient of a reserve Class B license is to encourage private investment and garner the greatest economic impact for the city of Fort Atkinson. The goal of issuing said license is to choose the highest and best use for the city of Fort Atkinson. The function of the council is to focus upon community goals with an emphasis on long-term considerations and community growth. And while we recognize that this decision is certainly not an enjoyable one, the guidelines set for the license appointment and the function of the council warrant a decision grounded in community investment and economic growth. As independent small business owners, we are not limited in our ability to expand within the city of Fort Atkinson. In 2017, we purchased and renovated a commercial space to expand upon our thriving pub business. In 2020, we purchased a third commercial space and renovated and opened a new business in the midst of COVID. And in May of 2022, we purchased a fourth commercial building, one that has the potential to sit empty in our downtown. Patty Shack embodies downtown revival, creates 10 to 20 positions, encourages strong tourism, which will result in room tax impact, stimulates increased business foot traffic, and provides the opportunity to partner with all businesses in Fort Atkinson as a whole. It's a unique entertainment venue, and with a full service bar, it will attract and retain new and local visitors and create a shift in our downtown. A shift that is very much needed as buildings sit empty and businesses are closing their doors. Being granted the liquor license is certainly an investment into a business, and it is an opportunity for higher revenue. However, the impact of the license needs to extend beyond just increased individual profitability. Our business will generate an economic impact that will contribute to a successful and thriving business community for the city of Fort Atkinson. We appreciate your consideration. We do have some letters from business owners that couldn't attend. I believe some others were also submitted prior, but these were additional letters.
Yep.
Next, we will open up public comment via Zoom. Again, if you are commenting via Zoom, you need to either be a property owner or citizen of Fort Atkinson. Please start by stating your name, address, and the subject matter that you would like to speak on. This will be a first call for public comment via Zoom. This is a second call for public comment. This is a third and final call for public comment via Zoom or from within the room. Hearing none and seeing none, we will move right along. That takes us to agenda item 5, which is our consent agenda. Again, as a reminder, the consent agenda that is outlined is presented for action by the City Council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Agenda item 6, petitions, requests, and communications. This evening we have none. Agenda item 7, resolutions and ordinances. Again, this evening we have none. Agenda item 8 is reports of officers, boards, and committees. 8A is the city manager's report.
Thank you. On December 26th, I attended the swearing-in ceremony for 12 new full-time paramedic firefighters and advanced emergency medical technician firefighters in the fire department. I was very proud to see so many people in attendance to support friends and family who are our newest members of the city's team. I'm pleased to announce that the fire department took over primary 911 EMS services on January 1st without incident. The department is averaging about 4 calls per day for the first couple days of the year. There's only 3 days in. All staff have successfully worked at least one 48-hour shift and everything is going well. There are a couple pieces of equipment that are outstanding due to supply chain issues, but overall the transition has been very smooth. I just want to thank the city council, the fire department, and other city staff and our whole community for their support during this significant endeavor. Also, due to a couple of our talented Parks and Recreation employees, Robbie Allard and Rob Stein, moving to the fire department for full-time service, the Parks and Recreation department has seen some staffing changes. Rick Allard has been promoted from Public Works Heavy Equipment Operator to Parks Crew Leader. Dave Radloff has been promoted from Parks Aquatic Center Aquatic Caretaker to Aquatic Specialist Park Caretaker. And we welcomed Matthew Thompson to our team as Parks and Aquatic Caretaker. Matthew's first day was today, and I believe he's coming back tomorrow, so that's a success. Also, our Parks and Rec team experienced lines of people and many, many phone calls this morning, as today was the first day to reserve your park shelters for 2023. If anybody in the public has events in mind this summer and would like to celebrate in our beautifully maintained park shelters, please call or stop by the office to check your date and location. The city also welcomed James Mosel as the 21st police officer at a swearing-in ceremony at the police department this morning. James will attend the police academy over the next several months before he returns for additional training. We welcome James due to the successful public safety referendum in April. 4 candidates have successfully turned in paperwork and gained ballot access for the April 4th city council election. Megan Hartwick, Mason Becker, John Donahue, and Kyle Jekyll. There are 3 seats on the ballot and the ballot order will be chosen by lot on Thursday morning. Staff wishes all the best in campaigning, and we will again provide several council orientation sessions for the successful candidates in April and May of 2023. Lastly, I hope everyone had a safe, happy, and healthy holiday season, and I really look forward to working with the council, staff, and the community towards the goals outlined in our 2023 budget document and the city's comprehensive plan throughout the next year. Thanks.
Thank you. Agenda item 9 is unfinished business. This evening we have none. 10 is new business. 10A is the review and possible action relating to authorization for city staff to issue a request for proposals for the design of a new public works operations facility.
Yeah, thank you. I suspect that the discussion may spill over to the next agenda item as well, so we're kind of prepared for that. But wanted to bring before you the next step in what has been a couple of months, I think, of discussions about our new DPW facility. This facility is, I think we would all agree, sorely needed. And we've talked about the 2 sites that we had listed as options. City staff has been very clear in our recommendation of staying on the existing site, not only because it is less expensive, but also because of the 5 years that we will save, I guess, in building a facility sooner rather than later, as that Lorman site requires us to leave that site vacant through 2026. This site is probably a decade or more beyond its useful life. The buildings out there have been somewhat neglected by, I don't think necessarily intentionally, but when I came on board in 2015, we identified a new DPW site as a priority. At the same time, we identified a fire department addition as a priority as well. And I think in hindsight, we made the right decision moving forward with the fire department as we did, certainly in the situation that we're in now with a fully staffed EMS service. So now it's time to turn our attention to the DPW facility. There's a number of decision points along the way in this as we kind of begin to move forward with how we're going to not only site a facility, but design a facility. And I wanted to make sure that council was aware of those. There isn't a vote this evening that is going to commit us to anything in the future that we cannot manage and adjust for, is really what I want to make sure that everybody understands. The first decision point really is the purchase of that adjacent land. And that's the next agenda item this evening. But without that, we would not be able to build a facility that will serve us for future years on the current location. So that decision point is really the first step, I guess, in our journey as we ascertain this DPW project. The second is the review of the architect's proposals. So we're going to ask this evening for authorization to move forward with putting out requests for proposals openly to all architectural firms that design such facilities. And we'll come back to council with likely our top 3 or 4 choices among those proposals. And we'll be able to get an understanding of what the cost of that design is going to be at that point. And then once we've hired that architect, we'll be able to have progress check-ins during the design on the budget, right? So we'll start off with kind of the conceptual level designs and we'll move forward. We go by percentage, 30%, 60%, 90%, each stage kind of marching further along in the design. Each of those steps will give us further clarification on the cost of the facility, the configuration of the facility, and as always, you get into these wants and needs of a facility where we'll be making choices about things that are more expensive versus less expensive, or that might last longer that are more expensive, and that might be less expensive, but we'll have to replace in 5 years. So we'll have some controls over that as we move through the process. And then the final step in this process is when we get the bids in for construction. So those will all come before council, and that's really where our planning and our estimating is really put to the test, frankly, to see how close we were. That'll have a number of factors involved in it. The economic climate, which prior to the last couple of years has been relatively stable, and hopefully will stabilize over the next couple of years as we continue on with this project. And simply supply chain, cost of material, all the things that we're sort of hearing on a daily basis, fingers crossed, are ironed out a bit by the time this goes out for bid in late 2023. So I just want to make sure that that council is aware that there are, as I said, a number of steps in this process where it will come back before you for further details, further clarification, and a vote, frankly. And staff is committed to making sure that we answer all of your questions about this, provide you the best possible information that we have to make this decision, because it is a challenging one. We're in a challenging economic environment right now, and certainly if we could wave our magic wand and change the timing of this particular situation, we would. But the cards are what they are. We've been dealt this hand, and I think we'll be able to move forward in a very pragmatic matter on this, and make sure that everybody has the information they need to make the best decisions. So with that, I'd be happy to open it up for questions. I think the first item was the approval of council to move forward with putting out that RFP for an architectural firm to design the facility.
Andy, I do have a related to that, and you mentioned that the RFPs would come back to us kind of with, staff's top recommendations. So just to clarify, because on point number 5 within the RFP, it lists a proposal deadline of January 27th, and then says a decision will be emailed to all bidders within 1 week. But I know we don't meet until I think it's February 7th. So I'm just curious if that's okay. I just looked at that. I'm like, ooh, that would be, and that's why I just wanted to clarify that it would still for sure come to us before.
We'll chalk that up to a Christmas hangover or something there, right? So yes, but exactly. We will come before council with the proposals. And I think you've seen in the past where we kind of put together a matrix and we rank things on a 1, 3, 5 basis, to quantitatively come up with something that we suggest is the best option to move forward.
Okay. And then my other question related to that is this architectural work being requested solely for the existing property?
That's correct.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Andy, I thought the assessment that was given in the packet was very thorough, and it was also kind of enlightening. People who know me know I'm not very handy. I'm not mechanically inclined whatsoever, but I kept reading, this is residential, that, not industrial or commercial quality, as far as the HVAC systems and things like that. And I know people are gonna read about this in the next few days and accuse the city council of being very spend happy, or not being aware that there might be a impending recession. But our men and women who work down there and do so much important work in the city, they deserve to have a good, safe facility with reasonably operating services. And this is the next step we have to take to gather that information and see what it's actually going to cost to get this all fixed. So no real questions, but I found the report very enlightening, and I appreciate the information that was presented.
Thank you.
And
I was just going to note that report that is in the packet is just the HVAC report.
Yeah.
So that is that's one of several reports that we would have done, or if we delay for that 5 to 6 year time frame on this project, there would likely be many additional repairs to the existing building needed. And just for information for everybody present and on the Zoom, that the patching the current Public Works facility to make it viable for the next 5 to 6 years for just the HVAC systems would be between $189,000 and $256,000.
Not an insignificant amount, obviously.
And Andy, I guess just for public knowledge, just to confirm, putting out an RFP ties us to absolutely nothing, correct? I mean,
Correct.
this is simply, we are asking companies to submit information to us in terms of what their designs would be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
We're actually asking them to submit proposals
Yes,
to us
yes.
for the design work.
Yep, yep. And the design work, we already have
We have-
budgeted in CIP for.
We
the
do,
year.
we budgeted $100,000 for the design in 2023. We'll see where the costs come in. Hopefully, we're pretty close on that.
I would like to mention that one of the things that I learned as a councilman is cost consciousness of our city staff has impressed me to beat no end. They have always been interested in the best interest of the city. They have never been interested in frivolously spending money. They're always picking the best deal, the greatest deal, the best well-spent money for the cities. I have great faith in what the city staff puts together.
I appreciate that, Bruce.
Yes, anyway, I move to authorize staff to issue a request for proposals for architectural design plans and specifications for a new public works operations facility at the existing 700 James Place location to be completed in 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 10B is the review and possible action relating to the purchase of properties east of the existing Public Works operations facility to accommodate the design and future construction of a new facility.
Yeah, so the land next door is owned by NASCO. We have been in discussions with them for many years, frankly, about what they would like to do on that land. And more recently, with some sincerity, we were able to negotiate a price for those parcels just to the east of our existing facility. The price is fair. We had a proposal, or we had what do you call it?
Praised.
Appraisals. Thank you very much. Yeah, Christmas hangover is not quite finished yet. Appraisals from both sides that really kind of helped us key in on that number. I will note again, the Christmas hangover strikes again. The March 28th is not the deadline for closing as noted in the packet. It is April the 28th, as noted in the purchase agreement that was attached to your information. But we do feel that this is obviously decision point number one. There were some questions, what happens if we decide to go in a different direction later on? And so land obviously never goes out of style, right? They're not making more of it. But we have the option to hold the land. We have the option to create a TID district, which is really our main driver for economic development. We have 2 that we've created this year down in that area, and that would help us if we wanted to spur some commercial redevelopment in the area. We also have a lot of residential in that vicinity as well. So if we decided in some sort of a planning arrangement that we wanted some additional single family homes, we could take this land and parcel it off into lots that could then be built on. So I think we have a number of options available to us to be able to recoup that investment if for some reason we decide that the DPW facility is no longer appropriate for that location.
Have you had any public input as negative public input to move forward on that site?
No, actually, I don't think we've had any public input. We did reach out to the neighbors, NASCO and Fireside in that area, and talked with them a little bit about the overall plan. Both were supportive. Obviously, NASCO is willing to provide the land to us, and those interactions have been positive. But perhaps Tom may have seen a little more of the the neighbors coming in to see what was going on and kick the dirt a bit. But in my office up here, I haven't had any public engagement on this.
Thank you.
Andy, I think one obvious question this brings up, and I know this doesn't commit us to necessarily rebuilding on the current site and expanding into these new parcels. But the obvious question is going to be, what about the Lorman site? I guess, can you maybe update us briefly on the current status, and then I kind of fill us in on that a little bit.
Sure. So the Lorman site, the buildings are down. If you haven't been out there, it may not look quite as good as it did before the buildings came down, but it will look better. It's a little bit like the sausage making, right? The long-term plan for the Lorman site is yet to be determined. The grant that we were awarded, which was over $1 million from the Community Development Block Grants program, allowed us to take down the buildings and perform the remediation investigation to see what contaminants we have out on the site. We have 3 parcels out there. 2 of those parcels, one parcel had no contaminants, one had low levels of lead, and the third parcel, the Lorman parcel, has some low levels of PCBs on the site. If we wanted to pave it and put up a new industrial facility tomorrow, we could do that. If we want to put in multifamily residential there, then there are some other requirements that we need to do to make sure that folks aren't interacting with those contaminants. But as I said, the site has to sit completely vacant until 2027. On January 1st of 2027, at that point, the CDBG requirements are lifted, and we can then begin the planning, and if we choose to develop or sell or whatever we'd like to do with that land.
It's good to hear that, regardless, we would have to sit on it for 5 years, but we're not precluded from future development there, barring the need for some additional remediation, it sounds like.
Right.
We'll also note that that Lorman property is located within tax increment District 10 that was created just this fall, winter.
I think just to reiterate Andy's point too about that 5-year waiting period, I think that is probably one of the most important points for people to recognize and understand in this discussion. That, seeing a potential purchase price for land of $500,000 is not a small number, and we recognize that there's impact of that. But waiting that 5 years to potentially use that other land, to the point that came up earlier about the quote we got simply on updating HVAC to keep the existing facility and structure operable, is upwards of half of that cost for that one thing. So really it is our city staff having presented us the option of, again, we might no means think that is a small number, but it is definitely smaller than what the investment would be required to get our existing facility up to speed and really be an adequate facility for the next 5 years. So that's the tricky part with that grant.
It is. It is.
Rebecca, I did have probably a question for you, but I know that because it notes in here that those funds would be reimbursed through future borrowing. And I know that we are well below the threshold of how much the city is allowed to borrow, but I'm just curious where that would put us with the future borrowing for the land. If you know that off.
Right. And I don't know that off the top of my head, but I will tell you that we are, I think, at 19% maybe of our borrowing capacity, and that is limited beyond what the state has limited municipalities in the state of Wisconsin to a policy that this council has set that limits us to 60% of what the state allows municipalities to borrow. So the $500,000 will not impact
Much at all.
No.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that would be part of a larger borrowing. That 500,000 would be part of a larger borrowing, and that will have that will impact that percentage of borrowing capacity. But that would also be additional decision points for the council. Obviously, the council needs to approve any sort of borrowing that's done.
Okay, thank you.
Andy, I'd just like to, I guess, thank you for making it very clear that like at no point in time are we making a decision that we can't, get out of. We can decide if the request for proposals come back outside of what we can stomach, that we can say no. We can look at other courses of action. Even with this purchase, it is real property. It's not an expenditure. It's something that we could do something with it at a later date, sell, turn it into something else at a later date. This doesn't commit us to a certain course of action at this point. So I thank you for that. And also just, I'm gonna step aside for a second. We've gotten so much public feedback on, a liquor license. I only hope that we get a lot more community input on this project also. Because this is gonna, impact, everyone in the city. But some of the other challenges that we're facing right now, obviously, is, interest rates for loans, and the cost of construction. I know that if you could maybe explain a little bit, Stoughton recently built a new Department of Public Works of comparable size. At that, I understand you visited or talked with them. They stated at that point in time when they built that, the construction cost per square foot was around $90 to $100 a square foot.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Tom made that visit and connected with those folks, actually, Tom and Nick Reith here in the room. And I think that was the number. We will be making another visit to Stoughton as a group, and council members are certainly welcome to that, to attend that meeting so that we can walk through their facility and begin that process of kind of understanding where they were able to save money, what elements of that were critical in that design, and what elements do they find, perhaps after a couple of years of being in there that maybe they didn't need. And I know Tom is on the phone. If you want to confirm the $150 a square foot, he can do so.
But I think if anyone who's been to a Home Depot or Menards lately knows, looked at the price of lumber and, the cost of building today versus cost of building 5 years ago is drastically different.
It is.
And we're just not in a great position for our facility to fall apart, but thank you for everything that you've provided so far today. Thank you.
And I would welcome, I think many of you, if not all of you, have toured the existing facilities. I would welcome the public to do so as well. Tom is a great host. And if you really want to see it in all its grandeur, pick out a rainy day is the best day to come in and check out what my superintendent's office looks like.
Can help him move the buckets around.
Exactly. Yep.
With that, I would move to approve the offer to purchase the properties included in the staff report and recommendations subject to the agreed upon conditions for $500,000 to be paid for through the city's general fund balance and reimbursed through proceeds from future general obligation borrowing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Takes us to the most anticipated item of the agenda this evening, which would be 10C, the review and possible action relating to the issuance of a reserve Class B intoxicating liquor license for the license year January 3rd, 2023 through June 30th, 2023.
Right. Little back history. So the number of reserve Class B intoxicating liquor license, now Class B means bar for easier terminology. The number of licenses available to municipality was determined by the Department of Administration in 1997. An increase in the quota of licenses available was determined by the increase in population of 500 persons. Since 1997, population increases have allowed 2 additional licenses to be issued. Following our 2022 preliminary population, it was confirmed that we have another license available. This is very exciting news when I get the population summaries. So on November 1st, I emailed and mailed an informational letter to 5 businesses or individuals who have expressed interest in the liquor license with the tight deadline of November 17th, noting the application review and approval will be a competitive process with the goal of issuing a license for the highest and best use. Along with emailing and mailing, we published a notice of the available license in the local newspaper, and we posted on the city's website. On November 17th, brought 3 submissions of the 5. Just to review a little bit about the application process, the required documents were original alcohol beverage license application, an auxiliary questionnaire, which is used to perform a background on those that would hold the license. Schedule for appointment of agent. An agent is for a corporation or LLC. An agent serves as the manager, staffing, the ordering of the products, setting up the menu, kind of the manager of the property. A lot of times the agent could be a manager or an owner. And then also to provide a federal ID number, seller's permit number, and to complete the reserve license questionnaire that was completed by staff. The questionnaire was separated to two parts, either for an existing business or for a potential new business. Applicants were requested to provide a narrative that explained the anticipated economic impact of the business with the addition of the license, provide business hours, seating, parking, recommended additional submissions if they wanted to provide menus, business plans, or anything else that they felt would be valuable to their submission. From there, I summarized the questionnaire to a table for easy reading for the council. The following entities did apply for the available license. That was Patty Shack LLC, doing business as Patty Shack Golf and Gaming Lounge. Mr. Brews Tap House 8 LLC, doing business as Mr. Brews Tap House. Rock River Heritage Incorporated, doing business as the Fort Atkinson Club Community Center. The License Committee then met on December 14th to review the 3 submissions. I'll allow attendees and applicants to speak in support of the application. It was quite in-depth conversation, a lot of review. The committee was able to ask questions of the submission of the those in audience. And then they, at the end, they did make a recommendation to the city council to approve the application for submitted by Mr. Brews Tap House. The vote was 2-1. Councilman Schultz, President Scheer were in support. Councilman Johnson was opposed. The council, tonight, the council is provided with the same information that was provided at the License Committee. The only additional information is letters of support that we had received prior to last Thursday. So in your packet, there are letters for Patty Shack. Since last Thursday, when the packet went out, we've received letters of support for Mr. Brews Tap House, and those were provided to council via email. I'm happy to answer any questions of the council.
I would just like to reiterate that our license committee did make a recommendation. So if we're going to discuss openly tonight, I would like to discuss the recommendation from the license committee and not each of the applicants.
I guess I will kickstart that conversation then that I know none of us are excited to be because, you know, ultimately we're going to have to make a decision that affects a local business here. And we all care very much about every local business that we have here. And certainly in a perfect world, we would give any applicant that wants this the license because it would benefit their business. And that is good for Fort and that's good for business owners. And unfortunately, that is just not the position that we are in. I know many of us up here have invested a tremendous amount of time and energy over the last couple of weeks, listening to the meeting recording, thoroughly reviewing the applications, every letter of support that was sent to us, conversations I know that have been had with staff. This is certainly, I don't think, a conversation that anyone is taking lightly by any means. You know, I certainly recognize, as I mentioned, that there is direct benefit to all applicants, and we know that it would be beneficial to them. And while I recognize and certainly sympathize with the idea that, you know, one applicant has been hoping for 5-6 years to get the license, the reality of the situation is a waiting list doesn't exist for this license, and that really isn't an item of consideration that we can look to because that just doesn't apply for this. And for me personally, taking in that one element of consideration of where would the license have the biggest impact on our community and on our city overall. For me, this, you know, is one of those rare situations where I do not agree with the recommendation of the committee, and that would be my stance on this for tonight.
Yeah, I think this is one thing where if we take a, even put aside maybe the subjective or quantitative estimates from the applicants of how many employees, how much business that they're going to bring. One of the things that, I really wanted to focus on is what message are we sending to our business owners? This isn't a license for Patty's. It's not a license for 1062. This is a license that could go to Patty Shack. The question I have is what message are we sending to our other business owners in town? That we will give preferential treatment to a new business over one that has been here for a long time. And I understand that duration in the town or the number of times that someone applies, that it's not something that, because we could have a business where maybe it doesn't make sense and they've been in town for 10 years, but they have 10 seats, and that using that kind of logic wouldn't necessarily make sense. But like everything else being equal, I don't want to make that statement to our businesses that I will, especially some of the letters we got, some of the businesses that submitted letters. If I said back to them, well, if they're a new bank or a new business or manufacturing site came into town, by doing this, like, are you also telling me I should give preferential treatment to a new bank, a new manufacturing site? And to me, that's not something I can stomach. So, my vote is still with what the license committee recommendation was.
Michelle, can you just clarify I don't know if you have the actual verbiage or breakdown of, what the official state information says about how the license should be determined in terms of who the recipient is.
It's up to the governing body.
Okay.
There's no requirement or rule. I will say that amongst the state, there's 1,800 municipalities, which means there's 1,800 different clerks out there. And it's a common question that I see on an email listing. How did you decide? Do you have a listing of information out there? How did you come to this decision? I need to provide this to my board or my council. A lot of responses were saying, can you share? Because we don't have anything.
I sat on the license committee. I heard the arguments. I was the dissenting vote to the recommendation. I'd like to point out that the keyword in this is recommendation. It doesn't stop council from considering other issues, other things about what is or what is not. Weighing this out was hard for me in many ways. I'm a small business owner. I wouldn't want certain things brought on my business in certain ways. I would not in a position that I had lots of judgment items that I could judge this against that. I guess my judgment items were basically about which one enhanced the city better, which one did a better thing for the city. Because I think that's what I'm supposed to be considering, not who waited longer, not who was a new person or a new business on the forefront. Therefore, new should get the nod, or wait list should get the nod. Should be which one gave me the impression that the total enhancement to the city was better or worse. And my opinion was that it was better spent towards Patty Shack.
It's obvious everybody's given this a lot of thought. I can say personally, I spent many hours over the past few days thinking about this, talking to people, talking with my wife, all kinds of things. And I woke up this morning at 5 a.m. again thinking of this. So I had to put some ink on paper, and I'm going to try to read this as quickly as I can. I appreciate the very difficult decision that the license committee had and make a recommendation at their meeting on December 14th. Having reviewed all 3 requests that were submitted, and having watched the recorded video of the 1.5 hour license committee meeting, it's the longest I've ever seen, I can safely say all 3 applications were worthy of consideration. I can personally say that I wish we had 3 licenses to award right now. My family and I regularly visit and dine at Mr. Brews and Patty Coughlin's. My wife and I also have a membership at the Fort Atkinson Club where we've attended many events. We obviously put our money where our mouths are in supporting all three establishments and their respective owners. However, those of us in local government are tasked with the efficient and effective use of precious resources. Right now in Fort Atkinson, somebody doesn't like my remarks, I guess. Right now, liquor licenses are a precious resource. We need to make sure we are using the most thorough criteria possible when deciding which entity should receive one of these rare commodities. And thinking about this issue, I even tried to see if there might be an alternative solution available. Early last week, I reached out to our city manager and city clerk to see if there might be a way in which the state could obtain at least one additional liquor license. So far, those efforts have not borne out, but I know city staff will continue investigating as they can. Unfortunately, that doesn't solve our issue at hand. I think, though, that the city council needs to recognize some of the things that Fort Atkinson is currently lacking. I often hear complaints, as I know you all do, about how there's not enough to do in our downtown. How there isn't enough for children with families and how we lack indoor recreation options, especially during winter. The potential business being proposed by the Pattersons helps address such requests from our residents and visitors. And looking at other neighboring communities, it's obvious that businesses offering new and indoor entertainment options are becoming quite popular. I'd prefer that people looking for those amenities stay in our city and spend their money here rather than going to places like Cambridge, Lake Mills, Janesville, or Madison, not to disparage those communities. I would also add that young people and their families aren't just looking for recreational options when considering where to move. They really do expect them now. We need to make sure our city doesn't get left behind in these trends. Our city council needs to look at the economic impact of what is being proposed here. We have established operators of two successful businesses looking to invest over $500,000 into two buildings in our historic downtown in order to create potentially upwards of 15 to 25 new jobs. Having considered this, I don't know why our city council wouldn't want to put them in the best position to succeed. I don't bring these points up lightly. In my time on the city council, we have only very rarely differed from recommendations made by committee. I can only remember maybe one or two times. However, recommendation is just that, an offering of opinion and not a concrete guarantee of how the city council will take action. I do want to mention that I appreciate how many area residents have submitted letters in support of both Mr. Brews and the Patty Shack. It's good to see so many people engage with both our local government and our local business community. And I also say that as a local small business owner myself, and I know how hard it is. Again, I wish we had 3 licenses to award. They're all deserving. However, given we only have one available, I believe we need to consider which option gives our city the most economic impact as a whole. While I recognize it would be great for Mr. Brews to be able to offer liquor to their customers and that it would enhance their revenues, I don't believe that is simply reason enough to make this choice. I think at this time, we would be doing the most economic good for our community by awarding the license of Patty Shack.
So you're right. We very seldom ever differ from what the recommendation is from a committee. And it was an 1.5-hour meeting that was less than pleasant to have to sit through, I think, for any of the 3 of us. However, I like Eric, I tend to think if we have made a recommendation, what is that going to look like for our community for us to say we've made a recommendation and now we're going to renege on that recommendation? And does that give false hope to any other businesses that are out there considering licensure through our city? And I guess also the comment of there isn't enough to do for families. I guess, how does not having a liquor license prohibit a family from seeking entertainment? In fact, I find it hard for a liquor license and family entertainment to be synonymous at times. So I guess I would keep those things in mind regardless of whatever the motion will be, but I would urge us to really think about what the business climate will look like if we renege on our recommendation from our committees, from our subcommittees.
I think the thing I would clarify with that though is it was not a unanimous recommendation by the committee. So it was a recommendation from 2 of 5 city council members, which is not a majority of our city council members. So while I fully recognize what you were saying and to everyone's point, in the vast majority of situations, you know, the recommendation of a committee is taken. But most of our committees are also larger. Many of them also include community member input and representation. So for me, I look at it more from the standpoint of we have 5 city council members. 2 people put forth that recommendation. 1 did not support it, and now 2 others have given their feedback. And while I fully understand and recognize the importance of maintaining strong relationships with our existing businesses, I just sort of feel like based on those comments, then our only criteria should be who's been here the longest or who's been waiting the longest. And then that should just be how the decision is made going forward, because if that's how we're looking at it,
Well, and
then all of the other requested information shouldn't have even been considered.
Well, and I think that's a selective thing to have taken out of an hour and a half to say they've been on a wait list for 5.5+ years, and that's why they were granted.
Oh,
the
no, and I
recommendation.
don't think that was, I'm just saying the reference to an existing business, to me, then that should always, I mean, if that's the main consideration to be taken, then why would a new applicant ever consider applying?
But that wasn't, I guess that wasn't the determining factor for at least 1/3 of the license committee. Eric, you can speak for yourself in that regard, but I would say that while that was considered, it was not the weighted factor for determination. So for us to be caught up on 5.5 years of being on a waiting list, again, is a bit of a moot point, because there's an hour and a half of discussion about other factors as to why the recommendation was deserving. So, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I've already stated a lot. A couple other items, you know, a lot of the letters that we were given made it sound that if we do not give this license to Patty Shack, that this business wouldn't exist. We are not saying that Patty Shack cannot open and cannot serve beer and cannot be a venue here in town. That is not what we're saying. We are not weighing giving a liquor license to Mr. Brews over Patty Shack existing in town. That is not the decision we're making tonight. You know, we have to look at, again, like the overall good. What is a liquor license going to do for Patty Shack when it opens versus what is a liquor license going to do for Mr. Brews? A couple other, you know, and a lot of these things where it's really hard to subjectively or quantify exactly what is exactly that benefit. For me, a lot is what message are we sending? I do want to support new businesses, and I'll, you know, when Patty Shack opens, I hope to be a welcome, you know, constituent or, you know, member, and I will spend some money there. You know, one other comment that was made or brought up by the community was, you know, the Patterson family already has 2 Class B liquor license. And do we continue, like do we also continue to give them a monopoly? If let's just say, given the circumstance, we give Patty Shack the Class B liquor license, and then the same conditions present themselves next year, where we get we get some more population, we get another license, we get, you know, the Patterson family with a new business idea, want a new liquor license, and, you know, we have the same applicants as we did last time. The thing for me is in that scenario, you know, it would start to make me feel sick to continue to make that same decision. And so, like, I wouldn't make a decision if I couldn't apply the same logic over and over again in those scenarios. And that's where I've definitely lost sleep over this. I think the only other time I've lost sleep was on the license committee when it came to the cell tower on Clout Hill. You know, and I guess those are some thoughts that are on my mind, you know, I definitely want the Patterson family and Patty Shack to be wildly successful. But like all other things being equal, you know, I believe Mr. Bruce is the right choice.
I think we could go round and round all evening and I don't disagree with Councilman Schultz. I don't disagree with President Scheer. I think you made the recommendation that you fully believed in. And I watched the 90 minutes and it was not a flippant decision that you made. And I'm not quibbling with your criteria, but I am going to make a motion and we'll see what happens. I would move to issue the Class B reserve liquor license to Patty Shack LLC, doing business as Patty Shack Golf and Gaming Lounge for license year January 3rd, 2023 through June 30th, 2023.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz,
Nay.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Nay. Vote is 3-2. Motion carries. Congratulations, Patty Shack. Agenda item 11, miscellaneous. This evening we have none. Agenda item 12 is claims, appropriations, and contract payments. 12A is the review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
I would move to approve the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorize payment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
President Scheer.
Aye, motion carries. Agenda item 13 is adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.